Community Heart Media. Your voice, your heart, your opportunity. Welcome to tonight's show.
Okay.
How you going here at 98.9 Northwest FM? It's good to see everyone here. Just hope we're on air. I think we are. How are you all?
Well, I'm good. Nice to hear from you, Mark. How things are going?
Nice to see everyone and our listeners out there. Mark is just, it looks like he's sorting out some IT things at the moment. Yes, he is.
Yes, he is.
What do we know? One of our starting goals for 2023 was IT. That was my top of my mind. What about yours, Julio?
Yes, mine was as well, trying to figure out the problems between the radio and live viewing.
And it is an ever-growing learning curve for all of us, no doubt.
Yes.
Thank you so much to all of our listeners here for Community Heart Media Radio Show and 98.9 Northwest FM. Welcome back. Hope you all have all been having a lovely holiday break and Christmas. And I would like to welcome our guest to this evening. Mark will hopefully be joining us back shortly. We have the amazing Deb Marven. Deb, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be here.
And now, Deb, we thought we'd kick off the show with goal setting, talking about all things to do with setting ourselves up for success 2023. And like Julio and I were just sort of touching on, well, one of our things for our show was to be really, well, we've got many, but one of them is to be getting many of these IT things sorted. So we're not off to a good start at the moment. But we want to look at exploring that with you. Julio, before we start deep diving into this conversation, what's one of the goals that you want to, straight off the bat, you could say that you want to be setting yourself up for 2023?
So 2023 for me will be an improvement year. So I'm hoping to improve just a little bit more, even if it's like 5% this year compared to last year. So diet, looking after myself, friendship, relationships, work, just putting a little bit more effort every single time I can.
That's so good. And what's the practical thing that you're going to do that?
One is actually something that I listened to one day, a podcast I was listening to, and it was called Do Those Don'ts. So basically aim to, if I say I don't want to do the dishes, I'll do the dishes. If this work needs to be done and I don't want to do it, I have to do it, sort of stuff. So it's slowly jiggling away those bad, lazy habits.
It's so good. And I must admit, over holidays, did we do something with that bed too? Because I had to get rid of all the greys at the moment. There's way too many for my own liking. So yes. Deb, what's one of your goals for 2023? What would you say?
One of my goals is to get out moving and start dancing again. I always loved salsa dancing. And over the years, life gets busy, you make excuses. But I know for me, when I listen to that music and when I dance, my entire body lights up, my mind, all of it. I just feel amazing. So this year, I plan to get back to the salsa dancing.
Oh, yeah, I like.
So, as long as there's no mirror there, I feel like a Latin goddess. What more of that?
Nice.
I can totally relate. Totally. That's weekend. So all our listeners out there, if you want to comment on our Facebook page live or to our audiences, thinking about what goals have you got for 2023. We'd love to hear from you, so tell us your thoughts. What's my goal? I've been thinking about it and reflecting, and something that keeps coming up for me, and I'm keen to hear your thoughts as well, Deb, as we start to unpack a bit about your journey, is to know my worth and to know my value, professionally as well as personally. So, and breaking it down how I can really, be assertive, to be like, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, and being clear about that. So that's one of my goals.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we are still waiting by the looks of it for Mark to join us, but he will be leading back into the studio when we get the IT sorted. Deb, tell us all about yourself, who you are and what you brought you to who you are now.
I would love to share with you. So, as you introduced me, I'm Deb Marven. People call me the igniter of hope because my biggest passion is to bring hope to people and show them what's possible for themselves. So, I'm a mum of a 6-year-old boy, a gorgeous, energetic 6-year-old. I'm married to an amazing man, and I have a business that lights me up where I run a program called Manifest the One for single women to help them find love. Uh, if I go back, back to the days when I knew Mark, one of your co-hosts, so much was different back then. I used to work in the corporate world. I was climbing the corporate ladder, go, 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 setting these goals. Like Julio was saying, the 5%, I love that 5%, by the way, that little attainable goal, but moving myself forward and up for the years that went, ahead of the next. And I was trying to figure out, what do I want to do? What do I want? And I did this personal development course once. And on this course, we had to sit down and say, where do I want to be when I'm 60? Where do I want to be when I'm 70? And if you're already at that age and you're watching this, where do I want to be when I'm 80 or 90? Yeah, you had this opportunity to think ahead and really decide for yourself what you wanted. And it dawned on me in that moment that I wanted to work in the community space and I wanted to help people. I help people in the corporate world. I was a trainer, I managed trainers. I wanted to do something of impact in the community. And amazingly, that was when I met your colleague, Mark. And I heard someone came up to me and said, do you want to go and work with kids in prison and help them rehabilitate themselves? And I said, oh, that sounds amazing. My skill set's as a facilitator. Let me go talk to this Mark guy. And lo and behold, from there I was in the corporate world at Optus, training juveniles who were in prison and helping them with interview skills and all sorts of skills. So that's sort of an early part of my background. Anyway, I'm in the corporate world. I'm climbing the ladder, trying to do the things. I'm meditating. I'm looking after myself, I think. And then one day I discover these lumps on my neck. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with me? I called my doctor friend and she said, I'd go to the doctors. I go to the doctors and the doctor looks at me and says, Deb, we need to do some tests. I'm like, but I've got 5 minutes before my next meeting. Hurry, hurry. Anyway, I laugh at that now because I was so go, go, go. Anyway, as it turns out, I went home. I got the dreaded phone call. Deb, you've got glandular fever, then chronic fatigue. So there I am. I'd done the corporate world. I was loving training, all this stuff. And all of a sudden, I was like a battery-operated machine that had run out of gas. I'd totally run out. And for the next week, 2 weeks, as it turns out, year, 2 years, I literally had no energy. So I had to learn how to live life. My old model of living life was take action. If I do this, I'll achieve. If I work hard, I'll do great. And my resume was looking good, but on the inside, there was this feeling of something missing. And so coming out of that illness was amazing. I got myself better. And some of you may know me, some of you won't, will be getting to know me now. I ended up writing a book of hope for people going through chronic fatigue. It's called Sick and Tired of It. And it was my journey going through this illness. So I got myself better. And as I got myself better, I left the corporate world. I didn't have the energy at that time for the corporate world. And I went to work for the not-for-profit, in the not-for-profit space, helping people get their mojo back. So, corporate's very different to not-for-profit, as so many of us know. There I was working with these people, helping them, get out of bed, feel more inspired, create a year that felt better than the last year. So I did a lot in that direction. And in those 7 years, I worked with a mentor and I really learned how to get people back on their feet on a whole new level I'd never experienced. So with that, I was also working for a community group, running events every month, teaching people how to attract what they want. So through doing that, there I was in my late 30s, wondering why everyone else had found their partner and where the hell was my man, right? I'm feeling better, my energy's there, but the man hadn't turned up. And I thought, right, I will do whatever it takes to bring this man into my life. And so I started doing these exercises. I'll quietly say, well, quietly on radio to however many people are listening, but I felt like in my late 30s that I'd missed the boat, that all these people around me were creating the lives they wanted. They were all meeting the partners. And there I was, single, coming out of illness, coming through this really challenging time. And I thought, I need to change this. What can I do? I'll do whatever. And at that time, I became a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, coach, and later a law of attraction coach. And I consciously chose to shift my thoughts. And I share this because to me, this is one of the key pieces to creating an amazing 2023. So I went from feeling like I'd missed the boat and where's my man and why hasn't it happened, to picturing this beautiful man on a boat calling out to me, Deb, here I am. Where are you, Deb?
Love it.
And as I did that, everything started to change.
Mm.
I went to a wedding a week after and people were saying to me, Deb, you're looking amazing. What's happening? You know, what's going on? And I knew that it was all this work that I was starting to do on the inside, starting to shift how I felt. My career was always successful. Our friends, family, you know, we've all got areas of our lives that do well, that thrive. But then we've often got at least one area that's our doozy area. And for me, it was relationship. So I did all the work and then I felt this inspiration to go online. And within 3 days of going online, I saw this guy's profile. There I am at 37. I see this guy's profile. My insides light up. I'd been looking for someone who was positive, someone who started the day, you know, on a good note. And I saw this guy's profile and it said, when you start the day with a smile, the rest of the day's cake. This is what he'd written. And I looked at everything he'd written and I'm like, man. And my inside said, oh my gosh, he exists. So there I am, fully well. I've done my corporate world stuff. I've done my not-for-profit. I'm working out what I want to do career-wise. And I ended up organising to meet this man. And that day I had this feeling that I was going to meet my future husband. Went to meet him. I'm running totally late. I try and call him. I can't get through. I finally get there. Meanwhile, his phone's died. He's running back and forth across the road. We meet, instantly connect, go into the restaurant, and the waitress who knew he was looking for me because she was charging his phone comes over and says, oh, you guys finally found each other. So I share that story because that's how I met my husband, and now I run this program, Manifest the One, to help women shift their thinking and attract their partners, and also helping people to create their best year and their best life. So that gives you a little bit of a snippet of my life and where I am and what I've done.
And welcome, Mark, back.
Cal, we've still got some technical issues here on 98.9 Northwest FM, but it's great to be back. And what a story, Deb, getting your mojo back and finding your man. I didn't want to say that Kelly's eyes lit up then about being on a boat, but I wouldn't like to say Kelly's just about to go on a boat in a couple of weeks. So who knows what that means, Kelly, but it's quite interesting, don't you think, Julio? But welcome back, everyone, to 98.9. It's Community Heart Radio, and we'd love to have some comments because that's amazing, Deb. It's just so good to see you after all these years and to hear the rest of your story that I hadn't heard for a while. But it's really good to see you. And I'm sorry we've got a few technical issues here with things, but it's still great to hear your story. It's a very inspiring story.
Thank you. Yeah, it to me, it really reinforced the power of shifting our thoughts. When we can look at things a different way, our whole reality can change. And so I've gone on from there to setting up my own business. It was a bit of a hobby for a while, for quite a few years. And in the last 2 years, in March, it's 2 years, I've turned it into a business, and I get to do what lights up my soul on a daily basis. So, yeah, really,
Well, I'd say you're
love
right. In the not-for-profit space, there's a lot of people wanting to get their mojo back because, as you know, it's pretty demanding space, the not-for-profit space. I suppose a lot of spaces in life are demanding. Kelly, don't you think?
Yeah, I think demanding's the right word, but like Deb was sort of touching on, we're used to going go, 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 go. And now especially I mean, I've noticed in the last few years you're available at any given time. And so you get used to being, right, I've only got 5 minutes, or I can only do this. And you don't get that chance to sit back and reflect or actually go, what is it that I want from that bigger picture point of view? And to allow ourselves to go, actually, this is the goal I want to set for myself, or this is what I want to work towards, or this is what I want to work on, what I need to be working on myself.
And Deb, look, you've got 3 customers here. We've got a lot of things to achieve this year. Especially Julio. Julio's got stacks of issues he's got to work through this year. I don't know where you start. Where do you start? There's people like Julio and I and Kelly got a big long list of things we have to get right in our lives, or things we want to achieve, or things we want to happen. Where would you start when you feel like you got so many things on, and maybe it seems a bit tough to know where to start and how to go about it? What would you suggest?
It's a great question. And it's so easy for people to get overwhelmed and go, yeah, I want to do this, I want to do that. And, the gyms get really full in January and February, right? These places are like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah. And then all of a sudden March comes and things change. So we want to come up with a way, or different ways, to set ourselves up for success, to set ourselves up for a year so we create success for ourselves. We don't sort of get disheartened too often and don't want to get back on the horse. So I think a really good way to start is to have a look at what is the basis from which you want to create everything. So I often say to people, what's your word for the year, right? So There might be a word that you think, yep, that resonates for me, and everything I want to create is under the banner of that word. So let me give you an example of the power of this. And I'll go on from that to say we want to set small goals. Firstly, work out what we want to do. I'll go there in a minute. But first, I wanted to just say, if we set a word for ourselves, we then can do everything from there. So a few years ago, I chose the word roar like a lion, right? I had decided that year it was my time to get myself out there, to share my message, all of these sorts of things. So after choosing that word, all of these situations happened that linked to my roar. So I went on this course, a meditation course that I'd done before, and this had never happened. They had us on all fours, roaring like a lion, literally. I roared so loud, I literally could not talk for 2 days afterwards, right? Then I did a course, and at the end of the course, there was a folder for a next part of the course. What was on the folder? But a lion. And then all these other things happened, leading to me speaking at an event in December. I had about 50 people in a room. They're all lined up, sitting there, listening to me at the front. And I told them this story about the power of a word and what my word had been for the year. One of them calls out to me, Deb, give us a roar, right? And I said, I tell you what, I'll give you a roar, but first I want everyone up in the room so we can roar together. I had the entire room, we all had each other, roaring so loud. The energy was incredible, right? So I shared the story to say there is power in a word. So a great starting point for people is, what's your word? Is it flow? Is it ease? What do you want? And then when you make any decisions, think of what your word is first. Does it match in with the energy? Does it match in with that way of being for the word you've created?
Love. Julio, Mark, what's your word? And to our listeners and viewers out there, what's your
I
word?
was just thinking some of our listeners may
2023?
have a word for the year. Julio, you got one you're thinking of?
Me, at the moment, I'm going to say that balance. Balance is my word.
Balance. It's a good word, Julio.
Balance.
Good word, mate. Good word. I've been thinking about different words, I suppose. Slimming could be a word.
Swimming? Was
Smaller?
that slimming or swimming?
Yeah, well, maybe that's how I'm going to get slimmer is by swimming. But I'm a little bit conscious of my goals, and I was wondering about people's goals, and it'd be good to hear people's goals or people's words that they're thinking about start 2023. We'd love to hear from you on 98.9 Northwest FM Community Art Radio. It's great to be back in 2023, and I know that the show, we've got a few goals. We really want to connect with you guys this year, and please give us your comments about the show and different things. But yeah, a word, Kelly, what would your word be?
Well, I was actually sharing earlier. It's not so much a word, but as a phrase. Know your worth and know your value. So I like that headline. And I love how you're saying, Deb, to have that word or perhaps, phrase, or yours might be a couple of words, Mark, as well, or phrase, and for everything to branch off from that. Love it. Really good idea.
So thank you. So that's I find that to be, and a lot of my clients find that to be a really good starting point. And I can hear that there's this question that we really want to get into the goals, like get us into the nitty gritty goal stuff. Yeah. So with that, what I do is have a think about your year last year and what's happened, and have a look at particular areas: relationship, work, exercise, home and the state of your home, finances. Look at those areas and acknowledge yourself before even setting the goals. I love to acknowledge myself for what's at least one or two areas that I've done really well at in the last year. So it might be you've done a lot of exercising, or maybe it isn't that at all and you've done a lot of eating and you want to change that, as I'm hearing as well. But maybe you've set up your home and it's feeling really comfortable and you just feel, yep, I'm where I want to be. That's all great. So just that acknowledgement of I'm doing all right is a great place to start. Because when we can,
just before we get into the goals,
good, we can then move forward. Yeah.
Just got a couple of comments here. Karen is looking forward to this interview. I'm glad hope you're enjoying it so far. It's great to have your comment. And Michelle's got a word for us: restoration. I like that. Restoration of health, well-being.
Nice.
I love how God speaks into our lives through a word. So yeah, restoration.
Restoration.
And Karen again has said, what we're using this is acknowledging ourselves. So that's a good point that Deb made, and it's a really good point to try to get off to a positive note. There's always, you can be negative and a bit intense, but starting off positive is a great way to go. And Bree's pinched one of Julio's one: balance and ease.
Balance and ease. Love it.
Love it.
So good. So once we've got the good, once we've focused on the good stuff and we've patted ourselves on the back and we're feeling good about ourselves, then let's look at, what do I want for the year? Julio said the 5% of shifts in a few areas. Yeah, we've all got that. And as I was saying earlier, I love that we're setting realistic goals. We want to make sure that we can achieve it, because if it feels too big, we're just going to go, oh, no, I can't. There's no point. I'll just go back to the chocolate or back to the Netflix or back to my drink or whatever it is. Not that there's anything wrong with doing anything. It's moderation, right? But it's about looking at, what do I want to create? So from that space, what's one or two things I really want to shift for myself for this year? Even in the next 3 to 6 months, what do I want to shift for myself? And is it realistic? If I never do exercise and I say, and Mark says to me, right, I want to get fit, I want to run my first marathon.
Mark, are you going to do that in 3 to 6 months? What do you think?
Well, even I'm not realistic, but I'm more realistic than that. I'm not going to be able to do a marathon. But, yeah. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, Deb, that sometimes you can start off gung-ho and you sort of like I'd hate to say sometimes I've set the same goal year after year, and within a few months it's clear that we're not going to get there. But I'm persevering with some goals. Is that would you recommend that or skip
Totally.
them?
And so if you're finding you've got the same goal and every year you keep coming back to the same one, I'd have a closer look at it. Being really kind. I always believe in being really kind to yourself, because if you're a taskmaster and you're giving yourself a hard time, it's not going to be easy to change it. But when you say it hasn't changed, has anything shifted at all? Like you might say, yeah, sure, my pants still feel really tight, or I'm having trouble getting up the steps. I'm not talking to you, Mark. I'm talking to anybody here, right?
No, I know you're talking to Mark. I know that.
Yeah. Come on, at least not. But yeah, absolutely.
But you know what? What steps have I already taken? Do you know what I mean? Like maybe I've already started walking for half an hour, 4 days a week. So I'm actually doing all right, but there's some other steps that I can take. So really acknowledging what you've done. If, however, you look at it and go, you know what? I said I was going to do something and I have done nothing, nada. Like look at it and see, well, what's holding me back? There must be something. I always believe there's something in our way blocking us. If we're not going to take action, there's something there. So work on it yourself, talk to a friend, get a coach who can help you, find someone who can help you shift it so you can move that part of your life forward, if that's important to you. Maybe it's not really important to you. Maybe you're saying, you know, getting fit, and I'm just using this as an example, is really important to you. But really, it's way more important to you to eat chocolate in front of Netflix. Okay, I'm a chocoholic. That might be why the chocolate example's coming up a bit. I do love my chocolate. But you get where I'm going with this. So how important is it? And if there's blocks in the way, what can I do to shift this for myself if it's really important?
Love.
Yeah.
Deb, I've got 2 questions for you, and I'm keen to hear from any of our listeners and viewers out there as well, because one is on relationships, but one is on what I always used to do with clients and have done myself is looking at that circle, like you said, looking at relationships, finance, work, health, etc., and looking at a scale of, okay, 1 to 10, how am I doing and what could I improve on? And sometimes I'm sort of like overwhelmed to go, 1, either did I set myself goals too high, or do I have too high expectations for myself?
Such a good point. And it's so easy to have those high expectations. So we think we can achieve so much in 1 year. If you look over 10 years, for example, there is so much that we can achieve. So if we just set ourselves little goals, we might not feel it in a week or a month or a year, but if we keep working at it over a longer period, it can make a huge difference. So yeah, on that topic of expectations, I love the idea of rating it. And I actually run a free course from time to time, Create the Year You Want, actually. And on it, we do rate ourselves as well. So I'm totally on the same page with that. But yeah, look at it. Is it realistic? Is this reasonable to expect that I'll be at this point in 2 months, in 3 months? Because if I'm not there, I'm going to feel disappointed most likely, and then go, for a lot of us, forget about it. I'm not going to think about it. And next thing you know, we don't even look at it till next year's resolutions. You know, next January comes around and we're like, right, I'm getting on this again. And so we're in this repetitive cycle. And that's that cycle of doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same result. What do they say? The definition of insanity? Same thing over and over. Now, I say that with loving kindness because that's where I come from. I don't call it, I don't think it's necessarily insanity, but it's creating more of the same, so we're not creating what we want. And if we want to achieve things, we've got to change some of those cycles.
100%.
You've certainly had an interesting, career, Deb. You started off those different works. You didn't have a relationship, and then, something changed in your life, and suddenly you've sort of found your way. So, it is a bit of a journey, isn't it? Where we're trying to go in life.
So true. So true. It took me time to figure it out. I like to believe my time home for a couple of years with chronic fatigue gave me lots of thinking time. Not that I wish that on anyone, But, that's the journey of life, right? Life happens. Hopefully we get some learnings out of it, a bit of wisdom. Then life happens again. And bit by bit, if we keep listening to ourselves and following the learnings and the wisdom and getting support, we keep moving in a direction that we're wanting to go. So, yeah, absolutely.
And now, Deb, you touched on your personal story, and I know a lot of our listeners out there were keen in terms of that relationship space as well. And that's always an area of focus, whether it be being single, whether it being married, whether it be looking for a new partner, whether it be relationships with your children as well, or colleagues, managers, community. What would you, getting back to not repeating the same things, what advice would you give to any of our listeners and viewers out there tonight where one of their goals, say if they've got top two and one of them is about relationships where they want to shift, and with, as I said, and it might be with their children, it might be to find a partner, it might be with their family.
Absolutely. So having a look at it and looking for yourself, what is it that I really want to change? And what is it that I'm scared of in terms of doing that? So in terms of a relationship, one of the things I focus on with my clients in my sessions as well is how open they are to be vulnerable, to be real, to really share with people, letting them know where they're at. Now, I'm not saying we're vulnerable with every single person about everything, but opening up and saying, this is where I'm at. So if it's with your kids and you're always in charge and you're always showing them that you're boss, like letting them know, hey, I wasn't sure about that, or I made a mistake, and creating these opportunities to connect together can be a really powerful way to build those relationships. So working out what is it. So just going back a step, what is it? What am I scared of? And what action steps can I take to improve this relationship? So maybe it's talking to your boss and having an open conversation about the fact that, really your workload is way beyond what you've got time for. And maybe there's a way that things can be reprioritized. Maybe it's you want a relationship and that you're thinking there's no good ones out there. By the way, I'm not saying there's no good men out there. There's lots of them. But a lot of us have this thinking, there's no good ones out there. I've missed the boat. Being able to look at, okay, what am I saying to myself? Is it true? Is it real? And what action steps can I take? Can I sort it myself? Or do I need a coach or someone else? Could I have that to help me in that relationship as well?
Okay, well, let's just get something into action here, because we just want to think about what Julio's goals are today. And let's just analyze them, whether he's following your little formula as we go. We'd like other people, of course, to share their goals. Now, Julio, you've heard what the great coach Deb has said tonight. She's sort of talking about the importance of goals, having someone to share with. What better people to share with us here tonight, just between the three of us? What are you thinking about as you start 2023, mate, and your personal goals?
Well, my personal goal is to basically better myself, like I've discussed before, about 5% for this year at the minimum. So increasing that level. But also, I was listening to you, Deb, I think it's very also important to have a partner, a friend that holds you accountable to what you do, as in the goal that you make, and then discuss it, or even have someone like yourself to coach you through how to achieve that purpose that you want.
Well, it's nice of you to choose me, Julio, to help you be accountable. We could do it on a Wednesday night about 8 o'clock at night. I could hold you accountable to all your goals. What do you reckon?
Sounds good.
So I think that he's doing his don'ts. Anything he says he's not going to do, he's going to do. He told us earlier in the show. So
that's
get
true,
juicy, could get interesting. Yeah.
It will.
So I think that's a great point about that as well. That it's having people to talk to be accountable to, and also to celebrate those successes. Woohoo! I've been doing it for a week or two. How can I celebrate? How can I acknowledge myself? For this change that I've made.
Yeah, that's true.
That's great. And Michelle's made a little comment about faith over fear. That's I suppose that's just having faith about things going forward, isn't it? And not letting fear hold you back.
That's it.
It's having the confidence too, isn't it? Like, taking that step back, acknowledging to go, maybe there were some challenges, but actually acknowledging, but then actually you did the best that you could in a given situation or an environment or a relationship, and reflecting on that and going, okay, what could I do differently? And perhaps sometimes there's nothing that you could do differently.
That's it. The reflection is so good, so important to help you decide what to do next time. So again, we're changing what we're doing. We're not just keeping on doing that same thing. And I love that about the fear. If that's stopping you moving forward, working through, finding ways to work through that. I heard a fascinating story once about this guy. All he wanted to do was get to the gym, but it felt too big. He couldn't get there. And someone suggested to him, all you need to do is put on your clothes, get in the car, and arrive at the front door. That was it.
Mm.
Arrive at the front door. For 1 month, he just had to arrive at the front door of the gym. Now, after about a few days, he was like, well, I'm at the gym anyway. I may as well go inside. Like, I've made it all this way. So we want to do like the 5% we're talking about, but take these small incremental steps to move forward in the direction of what we want, and then celebrate it. Whoa, I didn't just make it to the door, but I actually did 5 push-ups. I actually did the next thing. Go me.
Deb, when you were writing your book, when you had chronic fatigue, were you given that opportunity to unpack things so that you could set yourself goals to go, right, I'm not going to repeat that corporate world or life that I had, and I'm going to be on top of my health, for example, if one of your goals is to be improving your health. What were some of those lessons that you learned during that period and when you were publishing your book and writing it?
The biggest lesson for me, and I'm a bit of an achiever. I like to get out there and do things and take big steps. The biggest learning I had from chronic fatigue was take little steps. So while I was home, I went, I told you at the start, I had all this energy and I was completely depleted. I worked with an exercise physiologist. I ended up having a goal of walking for 4 minutes a day. They said, what can you do that's just a tiny stretch? That's how low my energy was. So I was walking for 4 minutes, 4 to 5 days a week, and then 7 minutes. And then I kept building it up. And I had a salsa dancing goal. I mentioned I love salsa. My goal was to dance in my living room initially for 3 minutes. So the biggest lesson for me was, even if you can't see the result, even if it looks so minuscule, no one else would even know that you've done it, take that little small step and praise yourself for that along the way. So that was huge for me. And I've taken that with me today in building my business and, creating all aspects of my life. It's little incremental steps. And then at some point people go, oh, wow, like, look what's happened. They haven't seen all those little steps along the way. They're all the things that I know happened. But they're the things that take anyone that achieves anything to write a book, climb a mountain, get fit, make it to the Olympics, finish a book for some of us, which feels like a really big feat, whatever it is for you.
Yeah. Look, we're coming up to the 5, your top 5, Deb's top 5. Really looking forward to those. But if you want to make a little comment about what Deb's been talking about or share one of your own goals, make sure you do that. Deb, I suppose one thing for, someone like yourself, you're a high achiever, very motivated person. You've got a lot of people in your life, a lot of things on. How do you, it's easy to get everything crowding in on what's important or what you wanted to do. Suddenly, some people say to me, they just get too busy to actually work out their goals or to implement their goals, or, how do you balance, because Julio used a good word before about balance. How do you keep that balance so you actually can make sure you get the big rocks in your life done and not be crowded in by everyone else's agenda or things that distract you?
Good question.
Yeah, I was going to say, great question. And, it's an ongoing balance with a 6-year-old and running a business and everything else. That's the reality of life, right? It's a constant juggling. Am I saying I've got every single answer? Absolutely not. But what I can share is that it's allocating time specifically for you, away from the clutter, away from the busyness. Whether it's waking up early, I'm just starting to read a book, The 5 a.m. Club. Now, we're not all 5 a.m.ers to have those couple of hours in the morning. You know, it might be blocking out a couple of hours in the calendar for the week to switch off and allocate that time to sit on the grass and contemplate life. Maybe it's a day, maybe you can go on a retreat, maybe you can take yourself away, but actually blocking that time out for yourself because you deserve it, because you're valued, you know, you value yourself and your time. Because like you say, life is always, always busy. You know, we had our quieter COVID time, and I think we've made up for that in the last year, right? We've all been so incredibly busy, go, go, go. So yeah, really committing to allocate that time. Maybe the accountability partner suggestion could work for you. Have someone you sit
Love
down
that.
with once every 3 months.
Mm.
Talk about, where am I at? I actually sat down with my husband and my 6-year-old in January, and we all wrote down what were our successes and challenges from last year and what do we want for this year, because we want to teach our son to do this sort of stuff as well as he grows older too, right? So allocating that time on a semi-regular basis so we don't get in that pattern of, it's January again and I'm in the same position. So allocating that time, and I just want to say here as well, then taking little action steps, even saying I'm going to take 5 minutes a day to do something that moves me in the direction of my goal. Just 5 minutes. That's it.
And I love, I was actually going to ask a similar question to Mark. When you are a high achiever yourself, or you know of people, and that's just your natural way of being, you've been like it since a child. How do you want to get these, you want to meet these goals, but you don't want to burn out at the same time or be taken for granted or walked over or whatever it may be? What advice would you give to any of our listeners and viewers out there tonight? Because I know myself, and these guys will know, I'm the organizer, I'm the coordinator, they know it. You want to use that to your strength as well. You know, you want to use that to your advantage professionally and personally, but at the same time, you need to have those, you know, those boundaries and get that balance right as well. What would you advise to people, who are those perfectionists or those high achievers like that, who do find it hard to take that step back, Deb?
One thing, sorry, I thought you were talking to Mark and I was waiting for him.
And Mark too.
So one thing that worked really well for me, and I learnt when I had chronic fatigue, because I had to allocate rest time. If I didn't, I would be depleted for like the next 3 days and wouldn't be able to get off the couch. So I had to allocate slow down time. And something I learnt that's also in my book is the power of green time. So green time is stopping time. So when you stop, and this can be challenging for people who have busy minds. I'm guessing a lot of people that listen to this radio station, a lot of people everywhere, right, have busy, busy minds that go, go, go. These are the activities that slow you down. Reading a book, doing yoga, making mosaics, writing, talking on the radio, but, these things that slow you down, let your body rest. A lot of them that let your mind rest. These sorts of things are so important. So I now allocate time most days, not every day. I do have I have my busy days and it just isn't possible, but I allocate that time to slow down.
Yeah, well, this
Give
is all
yourself
great.
White time between meetings,
Great advice, Deb. And gee, it's so
Absolutely.
good having you on the show. You got so much input for us tonight. I'm sure everyone's loving your advice and your insights. And now we're going to come up to the top 5, your top 5, as we draw to the end of the show. But it's just been so great having you on board. What would be your number one tip for us, Deb? From
Number
Deb's top 5.
Is set up daily routines for yourself that feel good. So maybe something for your body, something for your mind. This is your daily commitment to yourself. I'm going to wake up and do star jumps for 10 star jumps, whatever it is. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to...
So are you recommending to all of us then that we have some sort of activity before we jump in the shower and go off to work?
Some routine that you're going to do in the morning. If you do something in the morning, that will set you up for a good day.
Not eating
Set you
donuts,
up for a
Mark.
good
No
month and a good
donuts.
year.
I always think about breakfast as my activity that sets me up for the day, but we're talking about something else other than breakfast, I gather.
Yeah.
So I've got an idea for you. Eat your breakfast and say to yourself as you're eating your breakfast, today's going to be a really great day.
Love it.
Okay, so a bit of self-talk. Okay, that's fantastic, Deb. That's the first one.
That's
What about
the first one?
What about number two?
Number two, let go of your baggage. Let it go. All the things that you're worrying about. If you want to write it down on a sheet of paper, allocate 10 minutes of worry time a day, but let it go. Put your energy into feeling good.
Okay, so how do you do that? You write down all the things you're worried about. How do you put your energy into feeling good?
So take a sheet of paper. This actually comes from a book, The Artist's Way. Take 3 little sheets of paper, write down everything you're worried about in the morning for about 5-10 minutes, even 2 minutes if you want to. Then take the sheet of paper, tear it up, throw it in the bin. You've got your worry time. This is particularly for those people that worry. Throw the worries in the bin and get on with your day and have a fabulous day.
So, Deb, what happens if you're not a morning person and you are I'm a coffee go. Evening, polar opposite. I need to be like unwinding, going, oh, it's 11 o'clock, it's 11:30, I should be asleep.
Yes. Yeah. So if you're an evening person, you could say embrace it, enjoy it, do this stuff in the evening, right? If you want to become a morning person, have a little one like me. I was never a morning person and I've had to become one now. Now I want to get up extra early.
Yeah.
But, embrace you and embrace what's going to work best for you and what honors you. As long as you're healthy and looking after yourself, then do that. Yeah.
Okay, Deb, we're up to Deb's number 3 or tip number 3.
Number 3, take a sheet of paper and make it a really small sheet and allocate 1 or 2 things that you can do for yourself in less than 5 minutes. That's going to move you in the direction of your goal.
I like.
So
unpack that a bit more, Deb.
Say it again.
Unpack that a bit more. I like.
Yeah. So just little things. It might be, I'm going to make 1 phone call because I want to, write a book, but I've got no idea what's involved in doing it. I want to learn a language. I'll just find out where there's a language course, right?
Brilliant.
So 1 thing to do a day that moves you in the direction. 30 days later, you're going to be in a different place, right?
Mm.
Kelly, can you give us an example of 1 thing you're going to do to move into your direction? What would be one
thing I'm
little
doing
thing on
each
your
day?
piece of paper?
Yep, for me?
No, for Kelly. What for Kelly?
Oh, for Kelly. Yeah,
what
what's
would be
Kelly?
your 1 thing?
Well, my one, I have different things each day, but I have got on it tomorrow, I have got listed at lunchtime to recontact voiceover artists. Now, I have contacted 20 across Victoria, and so that's on my list to recontact my voice audio. There you go.
Okay, there you go. All right, well, that's tip number 3. What about number 4?
Number 4 is celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. So as you have these successes, as you've done this 1 thing a day, at the 1 month point, 1 week point, if you need to celebrate, then do something to celebrate. It might be you take yourself out for a coffee. It might be you buy yourself something you've been wanting. You don't have to spend loads of money, but do something. Take yourself to the beach. Something to acknowledge yourself in a way that feels good to you for these little steps that you're taking.
Yep, sounds good. Celebrate, Julio. You looking forward to celebrating? You're going to invite us all to your celebration?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So when would Julio be celebrating? Is that just once he's ticked off one of his things, or can we expect it in the next few weeks, or has he got to wait to the end of the year?
He can celebrate. When do you want to celebrate? How often do you want to celebrate? We can all decide however often. I think once a week and then once a month. Once you get into that momentum, you can have a bigger celebration. Maybe you can go out for dinner with someone you're close to, a friend, a family member, but acknowledging, hey, I've done all right. I've shifted this because, let's face it, making change can be hard. So really acknowledging every little step along the way that moves us to a new direction is worth acknowledging and celebrating.
No, sounds great, Deb. And what's your final tip for us on 98.9 Northwest FM?
My final tip, so all of those link to creating steps to change. My next one links to having fun. This one is finding something every single day to do that makes you feel good, something that lights you up. Even for 2 minutes. If you've got a song you love, put it on while you're eating breakfast, right? Do something that's going to have your insides feel excited about the day, feel happy about life.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's a great one. You got something in mind there, Kel? What
Well,
gets you charged up?
what gets me charged up? I love my dancing, like Deb mentioned earlier. But I think something that's quite innocent is I, as you all know, have this very mischievous cat called Charlie. And when I get home, he is bubbling to see me. And I just give him a big cuddle and go, hi, Tata, what have you been up to? Or if I'm working from home, I go downstairs to make a coffee. He's up in my chair and I just giggle and laugh and give him a cuddle. Yeah.
Fantastic. What about you, Julio? Have you got what charges you up?
What charges me up? Pretty much at the moment, going for walks lately. Just going for walks and being with nature, especially now in this weather. And the afternoon is really nice. Just being out there
100%.
and just having thoughts. Just being your thoughts.
Fantastic. That's great. Really.
What about yours,
really
Mark?
great.
What's one of your goals and what are you going to be doing? That's my
Well, I
question.
do like
to
a
you.
bit of music. I think what Deb said about music, I can I enjoy listening to a bit of music at night just to relax a bit and enjoy that. That sort of charges me up a little bit or gets me in a good frame of mind. And I suppose I gave away a little bit. I am trying to actually I'm trying to get more flexible and shed a couple of kilos this year. That's my big goal. It's not a new goal, but I'm getting more and more determined about it this year.
Julio, what do you reckon? Should I be Mark's exercise accountability partner? Because I know I ask him several times to come for a walk and he's like, meet you at the end.
Yeah,
Kelly's a bit quick. Kelly's a bit quick for me, and she walks a bit long. But if I could slow her down a bit, that would be great. But
Yeah.
And that's the thing. We're not competing with each other, right? We're all, and this is for everyone. Rather than competing, comparing, we're all walking our own walk. We're all running our own race. You don't have to run. So just comparing to yourself is the best way to move forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah, getting your own PB, you reckon, Deb? Getting your own personal best, yeah?
Your own PB, personal best. I love it.
Actually, maybe then, Mark, I could be your accountability partner and I could time you. You could say to me, right, Cal, I've allocated my 30-minute space to go for a walk in my lunch break.
Okay,
and
well,
I'll
that
be
sounds
like,
good. You can be mine. I could be Julio's, but who's going to be yours, Cal?
Wow, and that's the thing, isn't it?
Any
That's
nominations, our guests? Maybe one of our guests wants to be Kelly.
True,
We'll put that out there. But, Kelly, while we do that, Andrew's put a lovely message. I'll get you to read Andrew's.
And he actually said to tie it up, he said, I can verify that Kelly is a super quick walker and I would do a fantastic job to keep up as much as you do, Mark.
That's it.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
thank you, Andrew.
Quick. But, we need someone to nominate to keep Kelly accountable this year.
I know. So who's going to be my accountability
It's a big job.
partner?
It's a big job, Julio, don't you reckon?
It is, yes. Very big.
Now, what's Andrew got to say, Kelly?
Top of his head, joking. Watch every Star Wars and spin-off movie and show. Absolute priority. Oh, that's an interesting one, Andrew. Try dancing and learn to do it without feeling like a total fool. That's everyone's goal, would you say? Serious now, becoming a confident traveller to live and drive. He's had anxiety issues lately. To grow his website and get a new job. Awesome. And to meet new people and make more new, wonderful new folks. But most important, to grow his faith and live in a full life. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing, Andrew. I think that's really, really great goals. My question to you, Andrew, the one thing I have learned tonight is what heading or what name or title or one word would you put that under? There's my challenge to you, Andrew. That's what I've learned from Deb tonight.
Yeah, we need a word, don't we? We need a word for the year as we start off. We're coming to the end of the show. It's been fantastic to have Deb, and Deb, we'll have to get you back again. But that one word. I think it's good. I mean, Julio's got his. It's balance. Kelly, I didn't hear your word. You had a phrase. I can't think of quite a word at the moment. And what's your word for this year, Deb?
My word this year is thrive.
Thrive. Okay.
The plan is to thrive. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
I thought you might have done a bit of thriving the last few years, given your, what's been going on in your life. But you're going to another level this year, are you?
It's a new level. It's a new opportunity. There's always room for growth, right?
Yeah,
True.
True. Well, look,
and I guess
it's
we
been.
need to be thinking about what is our one word for community heart media. Mark, Julio?
True.
Listeners, what do you think our one word should be for 2023 as we're talking about goals?
Andrew's already put across fullness.
Fullness.
That's good on you.
Nice.
Well, look, we're going to have to end up, but we'll start thinking about our word for community heart and our words individually. We might come back next week with some of those words. But Deb, it's been great having you. Julio, any last thoughts from you as we wind up?
Amazing start of the year show, and thank you very much, Deb, for coming on and giving us your wisdom. That's been fantastic.
My absolute pleasure. I was going to say, for the women that want to connect, I have a Facebook group, if I can just share that with people.
Absolutely.
It's Conscious Women Manifesting Abundance, or anyone can connect with me, Deb Marven, on Facebook as well. And I'm running an event, Single to Soulmate, coming up soon, a free event. So if you want to know more, come into Conscious Women Manifesting Abundance and you'll be able to hear more in there as well.
Great. A last word from you, Kel?
Thanks, Deb. Much appreciated. I'm going to be thinking about what our goal is and our word for 2023. And I'm going to be thinking about my goals and going, right, let's break this down. Absolutely.
Fantastic. And Julio, just run us through the top 5 again to remind all our listeners of Deb's top 5 tonight.
Let's go with that. So we got set up a daily routine for yourself. Number 1. Number 2 is let go of your baggage. And that's physically for Mark. So you've got to look after that one. Take a sheet of paper and allocate 1 or 2 things to move you towards your goal. Number 4, celebrate each success and spoil yourself once a week or a month. And number 5, find something daily you will light up.
Fantastic, mate. Charge yourself up once a day is a good thing. Deb, it's just been so good having you. What would be your final word to our listeners?
My final word is be kind and gentle to yourself. Change takes effort. It takes work. Be kind, be gentle, take little steps and celebrate every step of the way.
Great. Well, look, so good having you on the show. I think a lot of people got a lot out of the show. I know I did, and I think it's going to be some really good things to start thinking about as we start 2023. Big year for all of us, and let's hope your year is a successful year, one that's got you looking after yourself and achieving some of those goals. And we're still looking for someone to hold Kelly accountable. So look, please message in if you want to do that. That's a big job, I know, but I'm sure there's a few people out there that will give it a go. So thanks very much, guys, and have a good week.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Tune in every Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. or watch us on YouTube, Facebook, and follow us on LinkedIn and other social media.